of any soft story. Yeah. So what is a feature? A feature is a form of journalistic writing that takes more than a superficial look at a subject, and it explores the background to an issue, the character of the person behind a news event, and also it identifies the factors shaping a trend. Yeah. And it is also an opportunity to offer the reader a better understanding of the news which you are reporting elsewhere in the newspaper. And a newspaper which had no features at all, they how they would look, they would seem as a shallow, right? So that is because there is not enough space within most newspaper news reports to dig very deeply into an issue, right? You have limited space in a newspaper for a particular, we can say, write-up. So at the same time, a newspaper which had only features and no news stories would seem narrow, because it would not be able to cover all the stories it should, right? Because of space constraints. So in fact, magazines do often limit themselves to, for example, one specialist subject. For example, see, a newspaper should balance its news and features, right? So that there is always space to give in-depth coverage of one or two news events, okay, each day. And also while covering adequately all the other news that the readers want. And we can say, see, like news, features are built from facts. Okay, features are particularly soft stories, and nothing in them is made up or embellished. Okay, but in features, also these facts are interwoven with scenes and small stories that show rather than simply, tell the information that is conveyed. So we can say that features are grounded in time, in place, and in characters who inhabit both. And often features are framed by the specific experiences of those who drive the news or those who are affected by it. So they are no less precise than news, right? But they are less formal and dispassionate in the structure and delivery. And we can say that the key functions of features are to humanize the story, adding a human touch or human angle to a particular story, okay? Or you can add color to it, educate, entertain, and also features can illuminate. See, it enlivens the story through description of situations and scenes, small episodes, and through human voices, okay? See, the term humanize, it refers to the human face of that story. As I told you, the adding a human personal touch, human touch, particularly in terms of quotes of persons around who the story revolves around, or their description, like their age, okay, their gender, occupation, etc. See, I'll give an example. For instance, in the specimen of a special feature story included, for example, there was a feature titled with drought in the driver's seat. Okay, it was written by P. Sainath. Okay, he was formerly rural affairs editor of the Hindu. So, okay, in this feature, you can find names of persons like Sinu, Raghu, or and number of places in Anantapur district of Andhra Pradesh. So if you notice how the journalist has tried to humanize the story about drought in that area by describing the situation, the places, characters expressed in their own words, okay, and the feature format thus enable the writer to breathe life into a story on a serious topic of drought, right? Okay, so clear about what is a feature. If you talk about the structure of a feature, see, the structure of a news story is usually an inverted pyramid, right? As we have discussed, this means that the most important information is presented first, followed by the rest of the information in diminishing order of importance, right? So a news story written in this way can be cut from the bottom without fundamentally damaging. So that's why we follow an inverted pyramid in normal news stories. So a feature is not written in this way at all. Okay, a feature has a beginning, it will have a middle and an end. And if a feature is cut from the back, it will leave the story hanging in the air. Why? Because it will leave the reader wondering where the rest of it has gone, right? At the end, the climax part will be missing. And however, you can say the feature can be structured like a pyramid of pyramid style. Instead of inverted pyramid, they can follow the structure of pyramid style. So where, in this style, the subject matter of the feature is divided into separate pieces, okay? And each of which is told completely before moving on to the next. That means in one particular para, the entire, subject is dealt with without moving to the next, without, compromising or following it in the next paragraph. Okay. So this is the structure of pyramid of pyramids. And there is a difference between a feature and a pyramid of pyramids news story though. See, it is not necessary for the pieces in a feature to be always structured in a mini inverted pyramid. It's also, it is not necessary for the most newsworthy piece to be told first and the least newsworthy last, okay? Sometimes in a feature, you will wish to deal with one piece of the story first to make sure that the reader understands all the issues involved. And then before moving on to a more important part of the story, this is perfectly acceptable, okay, in the features. And then we can also say that if we talk about the characteristics of a feature, we can say that a feature is rather like a necklace, okay? That means, and each piece of the story is like a cluster of beads in a necklace. See, just as a necklace would not look attractive if the biggest bead was put on the first, right? Followed by the next biggest down to the smallest. So the part of a feature do not seem right when they are written in mini inverted pyramid style. So use each paragraph like a bead, okay? See, thread on a paragraph or two of descriptive writing, then you can follow it by a paragraph of argument, right? Then thread on a few paragraphs of quotes, then some from one side of the debate, some from the other side, and with one bead in between them. That means a paragraph introducing the second speaker. And this cluster of beats will have told one part of the story, right? So this style can be followed, and you could give exactly the same set of beats to 10 different people, and they would make 10 different necklaces, right? Same is the case with features. There is no single correct way or wrong way of writing any feature, okay? They are just different ways. And nevertheless, just as one person's necklace may look more attractive than other person's, right? And just as people become better at making attractive necklaces as they practice, so some features are better than others. We can't compare, and you will get better with the practice. So here you have to develop a sense of balance, okay, between the different kinds of paragraphs and or the description, argument, quote, or comment. And also you have to try to read your own features as if you were a reader who had never seen them before, okay? Then you have to develop an understanding of what makes your features easier to read and what makes them harder to read, okay? Then write to length. That means writing to length is even more important with features than with other news stories, because if the editor asks you for a 300-word news story and you write 350 words, then it will be a nuisance, right? But your last 50 words can simply be deleted. And if you have written the story properly, the story will still, if the last 50 words are deleted, your story will still be intact. And if, however, the editor asks for an 800-word feature and you write 950 words, see, you will create real headaches for the sub-editor, right? Because, see, for the reader and for yourself, newspaper pages are not made of elastic. A space which is big enough for 800 words cannot stretch to 950, right? So you have to take care of the word count here, words. And cutting a well-written feature is also a difficult job for a sub-editor, right? If your feature exceeds the given length, you should cut it to length before you hand it in, right? This has two advantages. See, first, it saves production time for the editor. And second, it also increases the chances of the cuts being done well. See, since they are being done by the writer who understands the merits of each part of the feature. So it's better that you yourself edit the feature before handing it over, for the publication. And talking about the scope for features, see, what is the subject matter of a feature? See, I'll tell you one instance. See, one British newspaper had for many years they carried the slogan, okay, all human life is there. That means nothing less than all human life is the subject matter of features. Okay. And a frequent complaint about the news media is that they tell only bad news. You agree with that, right? If you open the newspaper, as I told you, if you just open a main page of a newspaper, you always find crime stories, right? See, it is easy to see why. Because most things which happen suddenly and are therefore news and are unwelcome, okay? For example, we can find news about deaths, accidents, crimes, and so on, right? Which happen all of a sudden. And also they are very unwelcoming. If you see the paper, you find all those images, right? So very few people can think of anything which could happen to them suddenly and that they would welcome also. See, other than, for example, you can say winning lottery is a sudden, right? And people welcome reading that kind of news. So most things which people will welcome, they happen only slowly and gradually, okay? And are therefore not news in the strictest sense. If you talk about the news values, it's not, news. For example, we can say the expansion of educational opportunities to underprivileged sections, right? It will take, of course, it will take many years, and there is never a precise moment at which the work can be said to be done. This is a slow and gradual process which needs a follow-up, okay? With all its achievements and failures and features often an opportunity for a newspaper to redress this balance. But you can strike a balance with features. Here you can, motivate the people, the particular section of the society through your features. And features also are a chance to step back and view life in broader perspective. Okay, you should have a good observation. And then it can also to relate current events to a wider social and also historical context. And they are also an opportunity to tell the good news as well as the bad. Okay, there is a lot of scope in feature writing. See, as I said about the British newspaper, right? All human life. See, all human life means just that the whole of your readers' lives, okay? Whether it's physical, mental, or spiritual. So you must reflect their working lives, their leisure activities, their family lives, and also you can talk about the spiritual lives, okay? All aspects of a human life can be covered. And above all, you must choose subjects that will interest your readers, okay? See, no feature can hope to interest everybody, right? But you must aim to appeal to as wide audience as possible in general features. And also there is a scope to write for minority interest as well. But we shall come to that, in the next classes later when we consider, columns. And also remember that it is not just news and leisure that are suitable for features, okay? And then there are business pages and the sports pages too. They can carry both news and features on their own subjects. Okay. This is also a scope for feature. In fact, all sports editors should always have 5 or 6 good sports features. Okay. Or they should have it ready. Because see, for the day when all the sport is rained off and they have nothing live to report, these features can come in handy, right? So now let us look at the different kinds of features that we commonly find. And they fall into 2 main categories. One is dated features and other one is undated features. Okay. The dated features will have date and they become unusable. Okay. Just like news stories which carry, after a particular day or event. Then undated features can be written in advance and kept until there is space to publish them. That means a feature which carry date, which has to be used by a particular deadline or a timeline. Then undated features, which can be, used at any particular time of a, event also. Like whenever, if you are running short of some stories, you can use these features, which can come in handy. Okay. So there are many categories of dated features, but the most common, or we can say the categories are the news features. Okay. First one is the news features. See, this is the first and most important type of dated feature, and it offers extra understanding to the news of the day. Okay, it can take many forms. So it is the general news features. Then there is backgrounders. That means these explains the historical or social scenario or setting in which events are taking place. Okay, the background information. And they help the reader to understand why current events are providing, or we can say provoking, the reactions of the people, right? So they are specifically helpful in understanding news in societies and cultures with which readers are unfamiliar with. Then there are situation reports. Okay, these act like a picture of the present state of affairs. Okay, in a place where which has been in the news in the past. Okay, then for example, we can talk about situation report is the for example, what is the mood on the Osmania University campus right after the state bifurcation? That can also be a good situation report. Okay. And then also we can talk about the conditions in flood, flood ravaged parts of Odisha, or we can also talk about the economic situation in a particular city or a country and so on. Okay, then we have personality profiles. See, one thing is news is about people, right? Because people make the news. So if something important is happening, it helps readers to understand it, right? If they're told more about the person behind the news. Okay, for example, we can talk about, one stage in the movement of Lokpal bill, or a profile would of say, let's say Arvind Kejriwal. This is the apt examples, right? For personality profiles, or let's say Narendra Modi. Okay. So then another type is revelations. Okay. The newspaper's own investigation may reveal something which the public ought to know, right? There are often injustice in any society, on any, social, economic, or political, or, any area, right? So with journalists, what they can do is they can bring all these issues into light. So features about inadequate housing conditions for poor people in towns, or you can talk about the child labor, okay? Or you can talk about the political appointments and the favorism, right? It can open a society's eyes to its own problems, okay? It's a very, good issues for debate. And then, as I told you, one good example of such feature is again by P. Sainath, titled With Drought in the Driver's Seat. Like I told you about this story, right? You can go through that. You can find it online on Sunday Magazine, dated June 2001. Okay, it's published in the Hindu newspaper. And then, see, as you know, one of the greatest scandals also can be, carried in the features. For example, Watergate scandal, as you all know, it was revealed in a series of newspaper features, which eventually led to the resignation of president, right? See, although the amount of space that will be needed to publish such revelations make the features an inside page, but they will normally also be an exclusive news here. For this reason, you should also write a news story for publication on page 1, and you have to also cross refer to the feature inside. Okay. If you observe, if you open a newspaper and see, at the front page, they'll be, hinting out about a feature in the inside page, right? It will mention, right? So and so feature on page number, so and so in the inside of a newspaper. That can also be done. Then there is analysis and prediction. Okay. See, an informed and skilled person, he may be able to write features, and he can also forecast trends in politics, etc. Right? How he can do it? He can do it by analyzing the information. And however, see, care must be taken with these, as uninformed predictions make newspapers look stupid, right? See, you should back it by some evidence, right? It should come from an authentic source. Okay, it should not be a vague prediction. And it is often a good idea to invite an academic or experienced person to write a feature of this kind. Okay, see, if you are going to predict the trends, okay, technology trends or academic trends. Now we have, chat GPT, okay, the kind of trends, all these things, but it should be written by an expert who can predict, right? Then there is debate of issues. That means a controversial issue may be debated through the feature pages of a newspaper. Okay. See, so that your readers may be given the arguments for both sides and he will be able to make up their own minds, right? This is often best done by two people with opposing views, each writing an argument to support this case. See, they may be published either on consecutive days or together on the same day. Okay. And then there are anniversary features. See, these are dated features in the sense that they must be published at a particular time, right? But they are also like undated features as well because they can be written ahead of time and stored. Because we already know the date when to publish that feature, right? So they are features which recall an event from the past and they look again at the event or its implications, okay? Or a little known aspect of it. And these feature will be published or on or near an anniversary of the event itself, okay? See, not every anniversary of an event is suitable for publishing such a feature, right? See, for example, good anniversaries are the 5th anniversaries or the centenary celebrations. Example, we have centenary celebrations of Osmania University done in the year 2017, right? So that was also a very good anniversary feature. Then we also have columns. Columns are write-up meant to articulate the opinions of persons, okay, who have expensive or you can say very much who are very much experienced, okay, in various fields like politics, economics, or strategic affairs, development, sports, etc. Right? So it is not necessary for a column to be impartial and objective, okay. And part of its function may well be to provoke people by offering a strong or even biased but logical point of view, okay. And it must certainly have something definite to say, right? People often enjoy reading a point of view with which they strongly disagree as much as with the one which they agree, right? They enjoy reading it. So they will certainly enjoy either of these more than a column, okay, which offers no point of view at all. At least you should have some point of view, okay, whether it's, you know, in the support or the contrary, but at least some point of view should be there in a column. And see, columns are classified into various types. We have news opinion column, okay. In this, a columnist writes about the news and it also offers an opinion on the merits of what is being done and the way it is being done. And no junior reporter should expect to be allowed to write a column such as this. See, because not only is there the danger of being sued for defamation, but also it will be very difficult for a young person of limited experience to write a column of sufficient depth, right? So only an experienced person or editor, they have to be assigned the responsibility of writing news opinion column. Okay. Then we also have minority interest column. Okay. So in this type of column, regular space can be devoted each day or each week to a particular subject, such as cookery, okay, or golf, or you can say pets, or any activity about which there is something to say, and interested people, they buy the paper and read it. Okay. And next type of dated columns are reviews and previews. Okay. See, as the name goes by, your readers will want to decide whether to pay their hard-earned money to go and see a new film, right? Or to attend a concert, or to, for example, go an art exhibition, or simply to eat at a new restaurant, right? You can help them decide by publishing previews or reviews. Okay. See, both of these are your description and opinion of the film or a play or a concert or even an exhibition. Okay. And a preview is published before it is open to the public as a result of a special press preview. Okay. And the review is published as soon as possible after the first public performance. Okay. This is the difference between review and preview. Okay. And another type of dated column is obituary. See, like anniversary features, these can be written in advance, but must be used at a particular time, okay? When the subject of the obituary dies. Of course, you cannot tell in advance when you're going to need an obituary, right? Usually referred to, it's all usually referred to as an obit, okay? Obituary. And it is, an account of the life and achievements of an eminent person who has just died. Okay, obit is that. And a disorganized newspaper is always taken by surprise by the death of such a person, right? If there is sudden death and scrambles an obituary together after hearing of the event, it publishes the obit a couple of days later. But whereas if you see an organized newspaper, they have their obituaries ready, written, and on all the eminent people who matter to its readers, right? From time to time, when a person is in the news, his or her obit can be taken out of the filing cabinet and updated. And when an eminent person dies, his or her obit will only need to be brought up to date and published immediately. For example, we have the sudden death of, for example, we had this sudden death of filmmaker K. Vishwanath, right, in the month of February. So what happened was newspapers were gearing up for his 93rd birthday, which was supposed to be on February 19. But the eminent filmmaker, the Dada Saheb Phalke Award director, he expired 10 days prior to his birthday, which was on Feb 9. So he had a sudden heart attack, and so he expired on Feb 9. So we, as soon, it was around, 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. in the night that this news, breaking news was published. And then, in minutes, we can say within half an hour, there were obits issued by eminent newspapers, okay, on their websites and on their e-papers and, on their Facebook pages about K. Vishwanath. Because, see, in particular, in general, see, he was aged, right? He was 90 plus. So these organizations would have kept ready, right, the obit, and they updated it according to the situation, and they have published it. Okay. So if talking about undated features, there may be about any subject under the sun, right? Or indeed about the sun itself. Right, about space, universe, right? But it will always help you to decide what will interest your readers if you ask yourself, okay, what your readers do with their time. You have to analyze, you have to think, you have to be on their shoes, you have to empathize with the readers, be in their shoes and think like what would interest your readers. So one good indication of this is what they spend the money on, right? On fashion, right? Fashion, technology. And see, if they're keen enough to spend money on it, they will probably also want to read about it. And this will have a commercial spin-off. See, if yours is a commercial newspaper, in that you will be able to sell advertising space connected to those activities. Okay. And don't forget, though, that some activities may be popular, but not need any money spending on them. And also don't neglect, generally people, tend to, forget popular features such as nostalgia or light humor. So this can also be written. Then we have educational features. And here the world is changing very quickly now, and the news media can help people to keep pace with the change. And educational features can help people, especially in developing countries, to understand the changes around them and to adapt. Okay. So you could run features on health and hygiene, giving up-to-date practical advice on how best to prevent disease in the village and how to treat simple illness. Okay. So you could run features on better methods of farming to give small village farmers higher standards of living and also thereby to build the country. All these things can be, you can write and educate the people. Then you can write about food and drink. See, everybody drink and eats, right? As soon as people can afford it, they start to enjoy food and drink as luxuries rather than just to stay alive. We consume food, to stay alive, right? But now these days with so many food chains and offering other options, food has also become a luxury now. The popular features are recipes, which can be very useful for introducing readers to way of cooking from other cultures, right? Like Yemeni or Italian, Mexican. So you may also wish to publish reviews of restaurants, and even a wine column will also be very popular form of food and drink writing. Then there comes travel. See, as soon as people can afford it, they like to take holidays, right? When they cannot afford it, they like to dream about holidays. That's, you agree, right? So a lot of people spend their money every year on travel, both holiday and business travel. So you will want to offer your readers a service if you are intelligently and informatively inform about how to spend their money wisely and enjoy travel to the full. Okay, right? How to book their holiday destination in a package, right? How to reduce the cost and things to carry. The travel logs. You can also write about the travel logs. Then we have fashion. See, fashion changes in all sorts of things, especially in clothes, and many people consider it's important, right? And they are up to date in the new clothes they wear. They want to constantly update their wardrobe. So an informed regular report on fashion with good photographs to show readers what is in fashion will always be popular. Okay, and especially with women readers here. So the target audience can be women, girls. Okay, and mind you, the photographs should be very eye-catchy here, okay, with good quality photographs. And then entertainment. See, features can also focus on movie stars, sportsmen and women, or cultural figures and celebrities as well, right? So readers often have a great appetite for knowing all about these people's lives, their favorite celebrity. So you can also write about these people. And then leisure. Leisure features, see, there are a host of leisure activities that can be written about, right? Either as regular columns or as a single features. And also it is often a good idea for the writer if the writer goes and tries, for example, trekking or parachuting, diving or house riding, or we can say mountaineering in hill stations, particular hill stations, and then write about it, write their experience. It makes it more real for the reader, and it makes life more interesting for you, right? So these are the different types of dated and undated features. Okay, any doubts here? So now on finding ideas. So how to find ideas on writing a feature? See, feature story ideas are everywhere, right? Almost everything one sees or does has a story behind it. And journalists just have to open their eyes and ears. Okay, they have to be critical. And the most crucial step in writing a good feature story is making the topic fresh, dramatic, colorful, or exciting. Okay. See, reporters use all their senses like seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, and sometimes tasting also, right? In food blogging. So they record how people move, speak, and dress, right? They also use descriptive verbs instead of adjectives and adverbs. Okay. So they give the audience a reason to care about the subject. Okay. See, feature writers find story ideas by being curious and observant. You have to be very, you have to observe everything around you. See, news stories may provide spin-off topics for features, right? For example, you can say an earthquake or a plane crash or an accident, okay, or other news event at prominence at an international levels also can spark human interest stories about the reactions of victims, okay. And also you can talk about the heroism in crisis, right? As some people act as an agent that bring the event into sharper focus, right? For example, a person saving life of people, okay, endangering his life, that can also be a very good feature. And features about major events or social problems, it can be localized through personal interviews, and also thorough background research on the event or issue will be helpful. Okay. And successful feature writers experience their story firsthand. And instead of just relying on the interviews of others, some feature stories are inspired by the personal experiences of reporters or their friends. Okay. So this will also help. If you talk to people, your friends, okay, your colleagues, and you can generate ideas. Okay, you can recount their observations and you can, write a feature on those. And see, the topic of the feature indicates the kind of sources of information you need to tap, right? So if you talk about the sources of features, for well-rounded feature, you should tap more varied sources of information, okay? For instance, for a feature on drought, which we discussed earlier, see, we need to get a sound background understanding on the topic by scanning literature, okay, on land holding patterns of drought or crop patterns of that particular area, agricultural economy there, the rural banking, the let's say the regional politics of the area before we proceed to undertake the field work. You need to talk to these people, have a thorough understanding. And the field work in this case could include observing the situation objectively and also interviewing with persons related to the story. For example, who are the person related to the drought story? Here we have farmers, right? Rural bankers are there. Then money lenders of the village or farm, we can say the market operations of the farm or agricultural offices, etc. Right? So these are the sources of information to consult when writing a feature on drought. That likewise, you have to, see the area which you are going to cover and, consult your sources accordingly. Okay, any doubts here? Please let me know if you have any doubts. Okay, so now we'll discuss about writing process and style of the feature. Okay, see here in feature writing process and style, they contain the, as I told you, the lead, the body and the ending, right? The start, the beginning and the ending. So now talking about the lead, see many feature begin with summary leads. Okay, I'll tell you what is summary leads in the, as we move ahead. And many features, however, features may also begin with quotations. Sometimes they begin with anecdotes, okay? And sometimes some questions, some actions, or you can also begin with descriptions, or sometimes even shocking facts also, right? Or a combination of these techniques can also be taken into consideration. So the only requirement is that the lead should interest people, okay? It should lure them into the stories, okay? So a lead should be very exciting. And see, no matter what type of lead writers choose for the story, they should make it as fresh and distinctive as possible. Okay, you can experiment here. You can experiment with the lead. Okay, then some leads such as questions or figures of speech and shockers, generally they sound right and but should be used sparingly. And also it is better to avoid cliches here. And every lead should either state the central point of the story or it should take the reader to such a statement. Okay, it has to be taken care. And then summary leads also contain the central point of the story. Okay, see, there is also delayed leads, whether there are quotations, anecdotes or descriptions. You have to prepare the reader for the central point, okay, which is stated in a, you can say somewhere in a paragraph. So you have to make the lead more interesting. And then there comes body of the feature. See, like the lead, the body of a feature story can take many forms, right? See, for example, the inverted pyramid style may be appropriate for some features and sometimes chronological order for other features, right? So regardless of the form chosen, every feature must be coherent. That means all the facts must fit together smoothly and also logically. Okay. Then you can also see, you can have transitions here. Transitions, they must guide the audience from one segment of the story to the next. And also they should clearly reveal the relationship between those segments if you're doing a transition. Okay. And transition should be brief, and they may ask a question. They can announce shifts in times or place, or they can also simply link ideas by repeating keywords or phrases here in the body. And also reporters should be concise and they should never waste their audience time. Okay. Features should, they have to emphasize lively details here, the action. Okay. And they should provide an occasional change of space. Okay. And a good reporter never writes a story consisting only, of quotations or summaries, right? Instead, the reporter might use several paragraphs of summary. Then you can use some quotations to add emphasis, okay, or emotion, then some description, and then more quotations or summary, okay. And also, see, you can bring characters to life. Instead of saying a person is generous or humorous, you can give specific examples of the subject's generosity and humor. Example, instead of saying a US president was a man of few words, one reporter, you have to illustrate his reluctance to speak by quoting, the instance where he would find that, right? You can use quotations here. And then successful feature writers also use elements such as characterization, and then the setting, plot and subplot also have to be taken care of. Then if there is any conflict or time, dialogue, and also narratives, okay. See, in this type of features, reporters, they generally reveal characters by using quotations and describing speech patterns or the mannerisms, the body language or appearance, their dress, okay, and also their age, the preferences, all these things, okay. The use of personal space and a host of other traits can also be considered here. See, the setting reveals the subject's character, and it also provides context for the audience to understand the subject here. See, geography, they shapes physical and mental traits of people, right? That determines life's span of people and the influences based of earning a living. So it is different in every, depending upon the geographical location. So reporters should tell the reader where a subject grew up, okay, where the person's surroundings are now, and how these factors contribute to what he or she is now, okay. So such touches of description sprinkled throughout the story, it should reflect this what the subject is like, okay. For example, you can say if a person has a very humble background, if he have if he has grown up in a rural area, he has gone through many and many struggles to come up in life, and with the he has survived all the odds, and he's now where he should be, where he's supposed to be, the current situation, okay. You can also describe the character state, like if the person is down to earth and humble, and how those situations have reflected the person's behavior, which has made him the person now, because the person has gone through such difficult situations in life. He has become down to earth and humble, generous towards people now. You can correlate, okay. So the plot of feature stories is often a description of the obstacles that lie between the subjects of the stories and their goals, and the resolution of conflict. That means the frustration induced by such conflicts. It presents the theme of every human interest story, okay. And the main variations of the plots are the conflicts between humans and nature, humans and humans, and also we can say the humans and the inner self, right? It means as reporters interview people and ask them about events in their lives or the plots, it naturally emerges, right? See, often a subplot emerges a secondary line of action. That means it runs in the counterpoint to the main action. Okay, contrary. And sometimes helping, and sometimes people, might help. Sometimes they may hinder the process in the subplot. So if reporters listen and identify the plot and subject elements as the subject tells the story, then a natural order emerges for the subplot. You have to be very careful and observe. And time can also be handled in a variety of ways. Okay. To organize some types of features, reporters can use a dramatic episode in the present as an opener, then flashback to the beginning of the story, and can also bring it forward in a chronological order, right? And reporters can foreshadow the future, or they can also build in a series of flashbacks, which can be arranged in the order in which they happen. Okay. See, whatever form reporters choose, they should be sure to use transitional words. Okay. For example, now, then, or back then in 2002. So why? Because to let the audience know when events are taking place. Okay. And then feature stories needs dialogue also. Okay. That means writers use dialogues to show temperament, the plots, or the events, the time, the customs, the continuity, and even the color. That means they must be careful to choose only the best, the most revealing quotes in your feature, right? The reporters have to use narrative to weave a story together, right? It summarizes, arranges, and also creates flow and transitions. And also it can link one idea to the next idea. Okay, and the narrative should be supple here. That means it should be carried out in a smooth manner. And then if we talk about the ending, a feature should have a satisfying conclusion. Okay, that means, for example, it can contain an anecdote or quote, right? Keyword or phrase repeated in some surprising or meaningful way. And you should always, avoid ending a feature story with a summary here. The summary endings are likely to state the obvious, right? To be repetitive in nature or sometimes flat or boring. Right. Some endings come back around to the lead. And okay, you have to, after finishing a feature, a professional is likely to edit and rewrite it many times, right? So a professional will also, that means your editors or sub-editor will also angle the feature for a particular audience or publication or news programs. And you can also emphasize the story's relevance and importance. So you can always end your features with some surprising fact or some shocking, or also sometimes with a question, for your readers to interpret the question. Okay. And it will, help people to wait for your next feature. Okay, what will happen next? Okay. So this is the structure of and writing process of features. Any doubts? Okay. See, now we have written a feature. Okay. Now it's time to, after writing the feature, it's time to, publish or market your feature, right? How to do that? See, a couple of weeks work experience in a newspaper would be enough to show you that this is, 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. That means, but assuming that you are a competent at putting in the latter, it is the former that makes you from the crowd. That means that 1% will make you different from the crowd, right? The point to remember is that ideas are the love, the blood, okay, the blood of this profession. That means you have to be very innovative here, very experimental with your ideas. It should be new, it should be fresh. The right idea, no matter who it is from, will receive positive attention, right? Whether if you're a fresher, okay, or a senior reporter, it all depends on the ideas. And then whether freelance or staff, if you are regularly, if you can regularly come up with your own ideas and you can suggest fresh approaches to familiar stories, then you will quickly become known in the profession as a self-starter, right? Who does not need spoon feeding. So coming up with a good idea is not enough on its own. However, right, one has to communicate, or example, you can say pitch the idea to the editor who is commissioning the story. So the perfect pitch is one that gains the commission, right? So, but what is commission varies from publication to publication, and also from feature editors to feature editor. It's different in every organization, right? So that's what makes it perfect. And it has to be right for them at that moment. And it's not a general, idea gently reheated for the, so many times. You don't have to repeat those ideas. It is extremely important to know the publication, know what is the content of the publication, the readership, okay, before zeroing on upon a pitch. And wrongly targeted pitches are, sometimes need the you can find yourself in a very weird situation. So you will have more chance of a success if you pitch an idea with the relevant publication. And specifically, you have to keep in mind, and if you are unsuccessful in this short term, you may have, potential to repeat, and you can change in your future proposals on how to pitch the story. So the first step to help you come up with the appropriate idea is to survey the market, right? This is a basic step. So you have to familiarize yourself with as many as different newspapers and magazines, right? Whether it's national, regional, or whether it's if they are any specialist, what is the nature, if it's a general or serious, or who are their audiences, okay? Who read them, the target audiences. And also you can check as many as you can to get a feel of both style and content, right? You have to scan those copies, you have to read, you have to understand the context, okay? And when you have identified a suitable publication for your initial, pitch, you have to try to locate the most likely section of that newspaper or magazine, which may well have its own commissioning editor, right? So when you identify the best person to approach, make sure that your communication with the editor is, through by, for example, you can just send an email or you can simply call, okay? And then you have to focus on the essential things. You have to tell him in your proposal, like why you're pitching on this idea, okay? And why this publication and why you should write it, first of all. So you have to indicate the statement of purpose. That means on why you are writing this, what is the importance, and why your publication should publish this write-up. You have to justify your writing and work out convincing points to each of the questions. And at this stage, it is also important not to give away too many details of your idea because it can be stolen, right? You have to be very, very careful here. You have to just submit a, we can say blueprint of your idea. So ideas often develop and change during the conversation between the person doing the pitching and also person at the other end. That means your commissioning editor, right? So most of us cannot afford to be too precious and so are willing to negotiate. You may think your idea is already perfect, okay? But an editor might like to hack it before, or they might want to steal it, right? Or they may like to come up. Okay. Then there's always a chance that their idea is better than the original. But even if it is not, remember that he or she is the editor and not you, right? You have to respect their decision because he knows his paper very well, the commissioning editor. So you can either do it their way or you can take your chances by offering your original ideas elsewhere, right? It's up to you. So you have to just submit your proposal and it's up to the editor to decide. And most important of all, if you want to establish and maintain any sort of credibility as a journalist or a feature writer, you should ensure that you never promise more than you can deliver, right? Equally, never take rejections personally. So now today's class, we have discussed about features. Let me quickly summarize of what we have discussed so far. Okay, see, we have dealt with feature, and see, a feature is a form of journalistic writing that takes more than a superficial look at a subject. Okay, and it also explores the background to an issue, the character of the person behind a news event, or it identifies the factors shaping a trend and so on, right? It is an opportunity to offer the reader a better understanding of the news which you are reporting elsewhere in the newspaper. Okay, so although a feature involves a lot more description than news stories, it is not an opportunity for a journalist who secretly wants to be a great novelist to indulge oneself, right? It's a great responsibility for writing a feature. So in terms of structure, a feature has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if a feature is cut from the back, it will leave the story hanging in the air, okay? And leave the reader wondering where the rest of it has gone. And however, we can say feature can be structured like a pyramid of pyramids, where the subject matter of the feature is divided into separate pieces, each of which is told completely before moving on to the next. Okay. And dated features include news features, which offer extra understanding of the news of the day, the backgrounders, which explains the historical or social relevance in which events are taking place. Okay. Then we have situation reports, which act like a picture of the present state of affairs in a place. Then we have personality profiles, revelations, analysis and predictions, debate of issues, anniversary features, columns, reviews, and previews. Okay. Then we also discussed about diary column, obituaries, and so on, right? And also undated features may be about any subject under the sun. Okay. And which help you to decide what will interest your readers if you ask yourself what your readers do with their time. Okay. And then also examples which included were educational features, food and drink, travel, fashion, entertainment, leisure, and so on. And also we discussed about the story ideas, where feature writers find story ideas by being curious and observant. And also news stories may provide spin-off topics for features, and successful feature writers experience their story firsthand instead of just relying on the interviews of others, right? And after selecting the topic likely to interest large audiences, we can also target, the specific audiences. And reporters, they also must narrow down the subject to find a central point that emphasizes. Instead of a broad, area, you can divide your area and focus on a particular subject. Okay, if you're talking about people, so many people, you can perhaps concentrate on a single person, single situation, or a single episode or an account of an event which has taken place. Okay. And while gathering the information for feature stories, reporters normally consult several sources and perhaps half a dozen or more to obtain a well-rounded account. Okay. And good reporters gather 2 or 3 times as much information as they can use. And then they can discard all, but the most telling details of promising details can be kept. Means after you have published the features. Okay. And you can say that features, mostly they begin with summary leads, and features also may begin with quotations or anecdotes or questions or actions or descriptions or sometimes shocking facts or combination of these techniques. Okay. So the only requirement is that the lead interests people and it should also lure them into the story. Okay. So like the lead, the body of a feature story can take many forms, and the inverted pyramid style may be appropriate for some features and chronological order for others, right? So regardless of the form chosen, every feature must be coherent. That means it should be arranged logically and also chronologically. And all the facts must fit together smoothly and logically. And transitions must guide the audience from one segment of the story to the next. And it should also clearly reveal the relationship between these segments. And transitions should be brief. They may ask a question. Sometimes they can also announce shifts in time or place or link ideas by repeating keywords or phrases here. And a feature should have a satisfying conclusion, perhaps an anecdote, a quote, a keyword or phrase, right? It can be repeated in some surprising or meaningful way. And sometimes reporters should avoid ending a feature story with a summary. And summary endings are likely to state the obvious to be. It can sometimes be repetitive, flat, or boring. So you have to also, feature writer has to communicate the idea to the editor. Okay, that's all we have discussed today about features, types of features, the story ideas. Okay, and how to pitch story ideas and how to market your feature. Okay. Any doubts? Then that's all for today. See you tomorrow in the next class. Okay. Bye.